started. Welcome everyone to our ITSS Verona video podcast, where we will be discussing security issues not only in Europe but also on a global level. My name is Igor Shchebetun, and today we have Dr. Rosario Formicola, an active duty aviator of Italian Air Force. Today we're going to discuss a pretty vulnerable topic related to Ukrainian war. Okay, Ukrainian war is pretty huge, the biggest conflict of the Second World War. So that's why we're going to discuss on all the, we're going to focus on all the elements that might impact the conflict, might help for Ukraine, might cause some damages for rivals between two sides of this conflict. So the topic of our podcast is F-16 as a game changer in Ukrainian war. And our dear guest will help us better understand what the F-16 is, why so many hopes are pinned on this machine, and actually many talks spread all over these topics, and why aviation is considered to be the most powerful argument in the modern wars. Doctor, with your permission, I'm going to start with the first question, and also we will discuss everything in the context of specific position of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. So the first question will be your personal assessment of the Russian air fleet, how big it is, how crucial it could be, and not just for Ukraine, but the whole Europe, for the whole European system, but for the NATO bloc. Who can be as a like decent rival with Russian fleet, and how you assess their ability to strike anyone on these on nowadays?
Hello, everyone. So first off, thank you, Igor, for this kind opportunity you gave me. I would like to introduce that, just stating that all my thoughts, all my ideas, whatever I'm going to say right now is under my personal responsibility and doesn't necessarily reflect the official line communication organization I am part of. So coming back to your question, which is a very good one, I'm going to say, talking about Russian aviation, it's very huge aviation worldwide. So they are fighting a very, very hard war right in Ukraine, having a lot of attrition, especially on the Eastern Front. But we're talking about a very huge in terms of dimension. Aeronautic it's very huge aviation compared especially to the dimension of the direct opponent on the Ukrainian front, which is the Ukraine aviation. So anyway, they are suffering a lot of attrition, as I've already said before, and this attrition it's been taken through the air defense systems of the Ukraine aviation, the Ukraine army, combined together, especially the SAM barrage, the SIM barrage on the Eastern Front, which is not comparable to the Russian one, which is a super huge in terms of dimension of experience, but they're doing their work. So the impact on the war is absolutely huge, especially long-range aviation and standoff capability in terms of strike. But again, the attrition on the Ukrainian part is absolutely phenomenal, and the way they are carrying out all the air operation is absolutely amazing and remarkable.
Yeah, and also if it's really important, if it's really crucial, those machines to be transferred to Ukraine, why do you think we experienced a huge delay with the transferring? So in terms of this question, I would like to ask you how pilot supposed to be trained and how long does it take if they train like right from the scratch, or because they supposed to be a little bit experienced and maybe just a little bit change the direction of teaching, and based on their experience, maybe those processes will be a little bit like faster. So can pilots speed up the process of learning how to fly and how to just operate? And also another like semi-question with the language barrier. Is it really crucial problem, or it's a mild issue that it can be fixed in a pretty quick,
Yeah,
pretty quickly?
yeah. First off, flying an F-16 or whatever kind of fighter jet is one stuff, and being with this fighter jet in a combat is another stuff. So be part of complex operation, be part of a large formation operation, very complex one with different kind of war fighting machines and a very different system is another. So virtually, I will say few months, like 6 to 12 months, just to have basic qualification. But according to the Western standards, which are classified, on average, you're like 3 years to have an instruction pilot, or even 6 years to have a weapons instructor pilot for F-16 or in general for fighter jets. So per se, it's not that difficult. It's not that hard, just flying a jet. But being with a jet in combat is another stuff. And again, that depends on which kind of variant, depends on which kind of role you're going to assign to the jet. It depends on which kind of weapons you have to carry. It depends if it's going to be multi-role or having specific task with a specific role in a specific operation. So again, there's a lot of variables, but we're talking about like months and years to have a very experienced pilot. This is the first big barrier. Language barrier is another one, and absolutely it accounts. It has a big weight and entire process, and because all the training process is usually carried out in English, and it's carried out outside of Ukraine, officially speaking. So for what is officially and unclassified reported, we know that training is being carried out in Romania or in the Netherlands and usually in Western countries. So the standards is English. So the quicker you learn English, the quicker is the overall process around the training. As far as the pacing in general to deliver all the machines, all the weapon systems, the pacing per se is not so fast and due to a lot of variables. First off, we don't know how many systems we're talking about. So we are, according to the very last information, we're talking about dozens or a few dozens of systems, but it's not the airplane the big issue. The weapon systems includes usually also the human dimension, which is the pilot and the air crew in general, the maintenance people, the integrated support logistics system, the integrated support technical system, avionics, spare parts, weapons. It's super complex. So we expect it, and from my personal perspective, it is logical to have this slow process in just delivering all the systems. Plus, there is another problem, which is a political one, because F-16 is a game changer, and everybody knows that. Probably is not that decisive in the overall aspect of the warfare, but is a game changer. So they will escalate a lot, probably from the Russian and Ukraine perspective, the overall balance of the war.
So we can. So, sorry for interrupting you, but really,
yeah, absolutely.
With a question.
Go ahead.
So, if that's going to be a real game changer, and we know that, and everyone knows that, so that's why it caused a lot of talks about these machines and about this transfer. So we can assume that politicians and the people who are responsible for this transfer, I mean F-16 transfer to Ukraine, they try to feed this as a like last argument in the right time. For example, we just assume, For example, with destroying the Crimea bridge, or with the counteroffensive movement, or with a part of other type of weapons be transferred, for example, like tanks, I don't know, something else, or train troops to attack. So it's supposed to be in the right time, like spontaneous time, and to be used in the so efficient, the more efficient they can, and also just trying to understand how many, like our allies said that there's going to be around 80 machines. It's official statement, so we can operate with this amount, so it's close to 80. And how many pilots supposed to be trained for this amount, just approximate, and how many maintenance people and the people who actually manage all the infrastructure, right, from the commanders to the maintenance people who really maintain all the process. Like just an average for understanding how many people we have to have.
I don't have this kind of information specifically, so I don't want to even round up about the numbers. But have to consider a list of a couple of crews for each airframe. But again, I don't have the correct dimension of the manpower to operate officially these systems. I will say manpower is part of the problem. So another big problem is infrastructure. So you have to have everything on the ground prepared to launch an aircraft. I'm talking about airports and all the logistic infrastructure down there, and the entire readiness systems, because you can have all the infrastructure you have, but the infrastructure has to be ready anytime. So again, talking about a lot of variables. It's not the airplane per se, which is going to be game changer, but it's the entire system, which is going to be the game changer used properly.
Yep. And regarding the infrastructure, do you think potential of preparation for Ukrainian infrastructure is about the close to the final steps? Is it almost ready? Is it ready? Is it potential could be ready, or it's supposed to be uh, done and built from the scratch? Everything's supposed to be built like brand new things, or they can use something not the very good condition, the infrastructure in general, the surface of the line where they're going to start up flying. So how do you think, like, what's your personal assessment regarding Ukrainian infrastructure for F-16?
Right. I don't have, again, a specific assessment, very detailed assessment about the status of all the airfield or the airfields in the Ukraine territory. F-16 has the plus to be a very flexible machine, but everything has been prepared to support and launch the aircrafts per time. We are talking about a multi-year commitment. So infrastructure is very a long one. And starting from the hangars, but I will say all the depots and whatever is useful to maintenance either of the aircraft or the same weapons used or to be used. So it's a very complex one. And the necessary will require in the future all the contribution, especially from the West, if they want to support the F-16 per se, is not, again, the aircraft, but is the entire complex going around the airplane, which is absolutely huge, which is absolutely challenging, especially for Ukraine Air Force. Talking about the status, I don't know again the status, but the flexibility is pretty high on the other hand.
That's why actually they call them pretty suitable for any occasion, right? For anything. So it could be like bombardier, it could be very good for air fight between Su-35, Su-34, which is, as far as I understood, is considered a very good machine as well. But what if we're gonna assume how F-16 could operate all together with AWACS system? As far as I know, the biggest range of missile is limited within radar. So if radar can extend the range of the missile, so then this missile, in theory, can reach a little bit further range of strike. So how potential tandem with AVAX system, which is equal to A-50 in Russia, which were destroyed, two of them, as we know, the latest days. And then how AVAX can operate with the F-16, for example. AVAX can operate in the Romania, let's say, somewhere in NATO bloc territories, and F-16 could operate on the Ukrainian territory. How AVAX could be suitable, if it's possible in general, and how far F-16 can reach out with the help of the AVAX, and how useful that's going to be instead of opposition with the Su-35.
Well, 16 is absolutely integrated with system like AWACS and the Western Air Forces. So technically, it's absolutely possible. Western pilots are integrated with the operator of AWACS in the West, in the NATO country, we'll say. So technically, it's absolutely possible. But again, in direct involvement of AWACS or Western Air Force systems will mean like super escalating the war. So at the moment, I don't see foreseeable or even predictable, but technically it's absolutely possible. Then it depends of where you want to employ them, because range one is absolutely super sensitive dimension of war. I'm not at liberty to talk about that, but what I will say is that the combination of these two systems will be absolutely lethal, especially in the area superiority or air dominance aspect of warfare.
Right. And then let's, if you allow me to assume a little bit to create the fantasies, but anyway, like try to understand what if. So what if the counteroffensive movement will start on the east part of Ukraine? So or even let's talk about south part of Ukraine, south part towards Crimea, towards the crucial point where actually the delivery shoulder is much longer from Russia territory right to Kherson, right to Zaporizhia region. Actually, I was born in Zaporizhia region, so I know this territory. And how could be useful to counterattack along like all the infantry troops, of course, tanks and all the machines included, or the artillery system, but also there is open space. There are not a lot of mountains and everything that could be counted as obstacles. So on this territory, how F-16 could be helpful, and whether in comparison with in other regions, like say on the east part of Ukraine, so there are a lot of rivers, forests, a lot of hills, mountains, not the biggest mountains in the world, of course, but still a lot of obstacles. In the south, we don't see these conditions. So how F-16 can be helpful on these territories, and how it can prolong the counteroffensive movement from Ukrainian side towards the scene, towards Crimea. So whether it be just regular and like on the other territories, or there's going to be significant difference.
It's going to be super useful anyway, but to be more lethal, it needs a lot of support, especially ground support in terms of JTAC capability or targeting capability, and it's a command and control structure on the back just to direct all the operations and make the entire command and control process and targeting process more quick, or just to increase the speed of that process. It needs a lot of ammunition, especially if you're using the 16 in a swing role, like air defense and same time strike capability. And it's finally a very good overall condition of air superiority to operate. So and it's to operate combined with other systems. I mean, it needs to operate in a very good combination coordination with friendly SAM. It needs to operate together with other weapon systems of different nature, just to be even more lethal. And on top of that, it needs all the logistical and technical readiness predisposition to operate. And it's very good communications, and it's very good weapons, and it's very good spare parts, for example, in case of damage or malfunction. And it's a very super good system in terms of readiness and manpower, for example. Per se, it's absolutely a super great machine, but it needs a lot of stuff, and it needs a lot of support, and it needs to operate in conjunction with other systems. But definitely, having said that, that could be super lethal, but only through matching all this condition at the same time.
How to protect those bases where F-16 will locate on the Ukrainian territory? While during the fighting, we understand this is really good machine and it could be game changer right on the ground, in air, and with an anti-missiles attack or something with a active process. But how the question is pretty vulnerable, how they can how in general all the air bases can be protected. So what's the best solution for protection them on the ground?
From my perspective, it will work. For example, a very good combination of active defense, like a missile system, and at the same time, a good combination of concealment, like a deception system, bunkerization, especially of the command and control nodes inside the air base, a very good sheltering of the same systems. A combination of those can give like the very, very minimum to survive and be resilient.
Can be F-16 be stored in those shells? I mean, the shelters. Is it possible to put them in a bunker somehow, or at least like a semi-bunker? Is there some practice in the world that you put them under the ground somehow, or it's just like my
could be a solution, but again, I'm not a very good technician in that, so I can guarantee you which kind of bunkerization and which level or grade of protection you can give to the aircraft. But there's a lot of infrastructure solution and definitely can be protected.
So and just one of the probably trickiest question, you may not answer on that, but just let's assume that maybe potential a few F-16 could be hidden somewhere in Ukraine, and so they actually caused those huge damages, huge impact for within the last 2 weeks for the Russian Air Force. We know with the last 2 weeks, where around 13 planes were striked in the air, and nobody knows. Actually, it's for good that nobody knows how they were striked and what Ukrainian troops used. But we just assume that potential perspective that a few F-16 machines are hidden somewhere and they just started acting whenever we have a notification that Russia Air Force in the air. Is that possible in general, or is it going to be pretty complicated and we have a lot of machines due to these assignments?
I don't have read any reports about that. I don't have any kind of information about that.
But
Assuming the overall timings of preparation and training, especially for pilots, I don't think so. But again, I have read anything about that. I don't think it is possible at this stage.
Yeah, understood. And to conclude our conversation and our small research, we actually sum up with the idea that a lot of complex things supposed to be arranged nicely, supposed to be done, prepared before we can proclaim our sky in Ukraine going to be protected, and we have a perspective to strike our rival, our enemy. So it's a lot of things supposed to be settled first, and it's not going to be just a politician reason of delay. the transfer of the F-16 transfer into Ukraine. So we just found out, yeah, it's a crucial thing. It's gonna be the game changer, but a lot of things supposed to be done before we can say, yeah, we can use them, we can proclaim them, because we hear some accusations towards politicians that's supposed to be a little bit faster. So of course everyone dreams a little bit faster. But like, do you think 80 machines, or how many do you think machines supposed to be enough for Ukraine? Ukraine is a huge territory, and as far as I know, the long line of the front is about 1,700 kilometers or so. So it's a lot of spaces where you have to protect the infantry or just the cities, or in general this territory. How many machines do you think, and it's gonna be enough, or at least the would be nice to have to be a decent to be a decent arrival for Russia's Air Force, and also whether that's going to be enough 80 machines for Ukraine, at least for the first step, or that's going to be just the hidden information. Maybe that makes sense as well.
80 machines plus all the manpower, logistics support, and technical support requires a lot of efforts. It's going to be super challenging. So in the very short term, I don't think it's going to be useful. Again, it could potentially contribute to make life for Russians very, very hard, but it won't be enough. Definitely, especially if you want to use the 16s in the multi-role, kind of task. I don't know how many 16s will be useful because it depends. It depends of the operational tempo. It depends on targeting process. It depends on which kind of and how many targets you have that we want to assign to 16s. Depend on degree of cooperation with friendly systems. So there is a lot of variable in place, but baseline 80 won't be enough, especially for this stage of war.
How many do you think?
I don't have this kind of assessment right now, but 80 are not enough.
Definitely. So maybe double, triple, but not 80. So maybe for the one part of the front, so they can do something. Okay. Yeah, definitely. And Doctor, really appreciate you for your assessment. And within 30 minutes or so, we just explore multiple questions, because I don't think our organization have had anyone before with such an experience, unique experience, because usually we can assume just the perspectives, we can assess economy situation that we can count, but never we actually, it's pretty huge contribution to our organization to give us understanding how F-16 can change the situation in Ukraine, because it goes a little bit further. So the impact from F-16 might occur to impact to safety in Europe in general. So one, Russia understand that's a serious supporting thing for Ukraine. So they might stop, they might step back, so they might rethink, or so it might be a huge step for not the ceasefire, but for Ukrainian security system, and also as for Europe a security system. Thank you for being with us, and really many thanks for your time, dedication, your knowledge, and your experience.
Thanks to you, Igor. Thanks to you for the huge opportunity you gave me. Good to be on.
Sure.